Hi everybody, and big welcome to a cEDH TV gameplay video. Today we have me and Pontus with Vincent and
LF Cruz.
hi guys and big welcome.
Okay, so this is a Kenrith, like a regular Kenrith that you would have like a dockside, the Phantasmal Image, Loops, and Breach. And I added some spice. There are some cards that I like Academy Rector, to either get, a line Pattern of Rebirth to then sack Hulk, so I have a Hulk there, and I can get me Ristic Study, or it can get me a Underworld Breach if I need. And also there's a spice card that I like is Dovescape. If I feel that I'm behind, I can just get a Dovescape there from Academy Reactor and just try to lock the game and beat people up. So that's the idea of the deck.
My deck is Rocco, Cabaret Cater. This is a bit of an untraditional list. We don't run Collector Oofy or a lot of stacks pieces like a lot of other Naya decks. In fact, we are playing a Turbo Pod deck. The goal of this deck is to get out Arena Rector as fast as possible, kill them, and tutor out Vivian, which gets us our pod line into Kiki Jiki, Karmic Guide, Felidar Guardian, make infinite tokens and swing out. We also have a backup line with Dockside Teamer, Sabertooth, what have you. But our goal is to win turn 2, turn 3, possibly with protection, and that's the deck.
Yeah, so I'm playing Armix Kraum. This is basically Mikey's list, but I want back on the old tech, which is Transmute Artifact and Bola Citadel, because I find that a fun line with Armix as a commander. But other than that, it's just Grixis, Nos, Breach, the good stuff.
Me, I'm actually playing an experiment, so you're seeing Kraum and Sidar here, but the big actual hidden commander is the 4-color Grenzo. So I don't think Mono Red Grenzo is that hot, but with more colors it could be cooler. So it's basically a form of hate bear deck that is have unblockable from the command zone from Sidar, and Kraum for more color identities, and also Kraum for Kardra. So that's the general ID, so to say. We'll see how that works. Just trying out the concept of like trying to steal cards with Grenzo here in a 4-color commander deck. And with that, let's take a look at some opening hands.
So this hand would be a snap keep. If I weren't playing 2 creature decks and Kenrith, which seem to be a bit hybrid, because this is a turn 1 Grim Monolith into Arcane Signets into the Wishclaw Talisman, which means a turn 2 Dockside into a Transmute Artifacts. We can tutor for Ristic, but tutoring for Ristic with Wishclaw is kind of risky. I think I'm always keeping this hand. Turn 1 Wishclaw, untap with 3 mana is pretty good.
So this opening hand is actually, it's not bad, but it's also not great. We have a Sylvan Library, turn 2, and then a turn 3 Archon of Ymir. But this is a hand you can keep when you're like down to 4. First 7, I want to have something better. Like I want to have a ramp early on and some form of tutor for Grenzo, so we're gonna mulligan. This feels great, actually. We have a turn 2 Grand Arbiter Augustine IV, and we have a Bird of Paradise, Mox Diamond. We can eventually get Kraum into play here. Like we don't have a tutor, we only have ramp and a stacks effect, but I kind of like that. Now, Pontus is playing a really good commander versus me, so I actually think that the Grand Arbiter Augustine IV might end up dying once Armix comes into play early. That could be really sad, but if we can get the Kraum into play, then it's fine. Like we're gonna make Pontus trade his Armix, we might sit and draw cards with Kraum, could get a better hand, but Gemstone Caverns, this early, with some ramp, I think we're gonna keep this. This hand is basically relying on Kraum solving the card and figuring something out later in the game. It's a safe hand. We could mulligan this. I see this hand getting a game plan forward.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep 6. So this is my hand here for 6. I maybe should I keep an interaction here, but I know there's so many hate bears in creature decks, so I'm gonna just actually bottom this an offer you can refuse, and then I'm keeping this 6.
So this is our first 7. At first glance, it looks like a good hand because, well, we have all of this mana generation. In reality, we don't have a green source, and we don't want to top deck into a green source because ideally with the turbo game plan, we're only really seeing 2 to 3 cards a turn because we want to be winning on turn 2 or turn 3. So we're not going to be seeing that many cards, and I really doubt we're going to be top deck into our land because of our land count. So I'm going to have to pitch this hand. If this was a green, I would probably consider keeping it just for the Lumberjack into Somberworld Sage, which is pretty greedy, but because there's no greed in this hand, I'm going to mulligan this hand. So this is our second 7. This is a really, really good hand because we can have a protected Rocco. We have a volley, which actually can't be countered, so they would need spot removal to stop our combo. The problem is we don't have a colored non-land to pitch to Chrome Mox, so we would have to top deck into one. This part is actually not as bad compared to top deck into a land, because obviously lands only make up about 30% of our deck. So we have a pretty high chance of drawing to a non-land that we can pitch to the Chrome Mox. However, if we draw into one of our combo pieces, that's really bad. So when it comes to this type of deck, what you want to do with Rocco is to get to 7 mana as soon as possible, so we can cast Rocco for X=4 to get out Arena Rector. After that, we want to use a burn spell in order to kill the Arena Rector and win the game on the spot. Not too bad. I think I want to keep this hand.
So I have a Gemstone Caverns here. I'm gonna exile this Emrakul, the Promised End. I promised to not end it that way. Gemstone, but that's it.
I'll start us off. Draw a card. Play this Scalding Tarn. Fetch. Finding a Badlands. Tap it for a Rite of Flame. I'll make 2 red. I'll use them immediately for this Grim Monolith. I will tap it. Floating and colorless. Cast this Arcane Signet. Tap it for a black. Use the colorless floating for a Wishclaw Talisman. And with that, I'll pass the turn.
Draw a card. Play Misty Rainforest. Sacrifice it. Find a Volcanic Island. Tap this. And cast a Bird of Paradise. And while we're at it, a Mox Diamond. Pitching this Windswept Heath. Then I pass the turn.
So let's draw for turn. I'll play this Mana Confluence, tap, pay 1 life, and play this Birds of Paradise. If that's fine, I pass the turn.
I will draw. I will play a Verdant Catacombs. I will sacrifice my Verdant Catacomb to find a Taiga, which comes into play. I'll take 1. Play a Mana Crypt. I will play Arcane Signet, and then I will pass the turn.
Take my turn? Sure. Why? Okay. Land for turn is an Unground Sea. I'll tap 3 for a Armix. And if that's good, I'll pass the turn.
This is actually really scary. But yeah, sure, we're gonna put a turn, go and draw a card. It is Verdant Catacomb. So this is actually really bad. Like, we're having a great game, we're setting up the perfect stacks pieces, but this really showcased the power of Armix compared to other Storm commanders, so to say. Like, Armix really shuts down my Grand Arbiter Augustine that I have in my hand, because all he needs to do now is just attack and discard a card, and that stacks piece is gone. And what he could do here is literally find Bolas Citadel with that, or it kind of depends on what he has in his hand, but with that Wishclaw Talisman he can set up some really amazing wins, like a Bolas Citadel reanimation with his Armix potentially. So it's like, I really want to cast the Grand Arbiter Augustine here, but I actually think just consider, like, that is the correct play versus most decks in Grixis. On board, he has removal for that thing. We're losing. So what I might do instead is cast Kraum here, because he can't really just attack into Kraum and kill Kraum that easily. He probably can kill, but it's not really gonna do that. But Kraum could give me card draw to draw into a Force of Will that might save us. So I think I'm gonna go with Kraum instead. But normally you should go with the Grand Arbiter Augustine here. I'm gonna sacrifice this Verdant Catacomb. I'm gonna find this Taiga with that. And I'm gonna cast a 5 mana Kraum. And I don't know if it matters, but I think I'm gonna attack you, Pontus, for just 4 damage to decrease the Bolas Citadel and Ad Nauseam potential for you a tiny bit at least.
No blocks, take 4.
Then I pass the turn.
On top. So here's the thing, I'm in my upkeep now. I don't have another land. I have a Simian Spirit Guide, so I have some options. I could Enlightening Tutor now in my upkeep, try to get maybe a Mana Crypt or even a land. But I think I'm more towards playing this Enlightening Tutor, maybe get a Sylvan Library and Simian Spirit Guide, but I'm gonna get a lot of damage from that Crown. I'm also afraid to play this Phantasmal Image here. I could try to get a Crown, but then easily Armix would kill it. So I'm in a completely weird spot here. I'm gonna just draw my card for the turn. Draw for turn. Okay, so we're gonna play this Volcanic Island land for turn. Cast this Eladammer's Call. I'm gonna get a Dockside. I'm gonna tap this Exile Simian Spirit Guide and cast this Dockside.
I will draw a card because of Kraum. That's your second spell.
Treasure. Okay, that's a lot of treasures. Man, so we are 1 short from winning the game here. One treasure. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna just cast the Kenrith here and hold a Enlightened Tutor and a Silence. And I think that's the best play for now. Crack 5 treasures and cast this Kenrith. Yeah, your turn.
Okay, can you please roll odds? I take damage.
Okay, so 5.
I will take 3. I'll draw for turn. So right here, I don't have the win. So I can get to 7 mana, but I cannot get us to a win. So here's the problem with playing Rocco right now to get Ranger Captain Eos. Pontus has Armix. If I Rocco for any creature, Pontus will kill it. That is a very, very bad position. So right now, I have to think very carefully about what creature I get, because most likely it is going to die if it catches any sort of threat whatsoever. I look pretty threatening right now, untapping with all of this mana, but at the same time, I think Pontus is the biggest threat right now. The problem is I don't want him to see me as the second biggest threat after him. So I think the safest play is probably just to cast Orcish Lumberjack and then pass the turn. I don't want to cast Rocco yet. It's unfortunate. We're still on turn 2. Our deck wins turn 3 on average. We're going to sandbag the Chromox and the Simian Spear Guide maybe. I don't know how greedy I am. I could just not play a creature and pass, and I could try to politic and say an excuse like, oh, I don't want Pontus to kill my Lumberjack or something like that. Gambling that I draw into a non-land to pitch the Chromox. That's questionable. We are on turn 2. Turn 3 is when a lot of decks will try to make a win attempt. I think I'm in a very, very bad spot here, going last and sitting across from a Kenrith of Dockside, an Armix, and then, well, especially an Armix, Wishclaw Talisman of all things. If we had 8 mana, I could go off. Unfortunately, we don't. We have 7. I'm going to play a Sacred Foundry tapped. Pass the turn.
Go to my turn. Tap Underground Sea to activate Wishclaw.
Crack a treasure, and I'm going to cast a silence.
So I will respond to silence. I'll tap 2 mana for a Dramatic Reversal.
I will pass priority on that.
Dramatic Reversal resolves. Then, in response to silence, I'll activate Wishclaw again.
Yeah, pass priority.
That's pretty good.
That's a game, I think.
So I'm getting this card, and Wishclaw will go to Alatari, Rocco. And then, in response to silence, I will Fierce the Silence.
Pass priority.
So this is your second spell, Dramatic and then Fierce. I will draw a card. I have no response to this.
So Fierce resolves. Silence is countered, and the second activation the first activation of Wishclaw is on the stack. So since Wishclaw isn't on my board, I still have to choose an opponent to get the control of it, and I'll choose Rocco again. Finding this card, and then I will cast this Mana Crypt. I'll tap Mana Crypt, use one of the 2 floating, and tap 3 black for this Citadel. Citadel resolves.
Come on, land on top.
Top card, I'll cast this Last Chance. Losing 2 life. It's a Final Fortune effect. It's 2 red to take an extra turn, and in the end stuff of that turn, you lose the game. Pretty good with the Bola Citadel in play, not gonna lie. Top card, Marshflats. Land for turn. I would like to cast this Underworld Breach from the top of my library. I would like to cast this Dark Ritual from the top of my library, losing 1 life. Lose 1 life, cast this Mana Vault. Lose 2 life for this Talisman of Dominance. I would like to fetch. Finding a Watery Grave, taking 2 damage. Cast this Transmute Artifacts from my hand. I will sacrifice the Grim Monolith and search for a CMC2 artifact. Finding a Felwar Stone. I will cast a Musical Tutor at the top of my deck, losing 1 life.
I'm gonna respond to this, actually, by paying 2 life and casting a Mental Misstep on your Mystical Tutor.
I will respond. I'll tap this for a blue, use my colorless floating and a black to Fierce Guardianship your misstep from my graveyard. Exiling Grim Monolith, Last Chance, and a land.
I don't have a response to that. It resolves and my Mental Misstep is counterspelled.
Putting a Brain Freeze on top of my deck. I have a colorless floating to cast this defense grid from my hand. I'll cast this Brain Freeze targeting myself. Storm count is 18, so I will mill 54 cards. So I'll cast this Lotus Petal from my graveyard. So I'll crack this Lotus Petal, and then I'll use the blue and a colorless floating to cast Dramatic Reversal. And from here I can present a loop where I use Dramatic Reversal to make a bunch of mana, and then cast Brain Freeze to mill through my deck and cast the Oracle to win, or mill my opponents and wheel, or whatever I feel like doing to kill the table. Good game.
Armix is really strong. If it was any other Grixis turbo deck, Grand Arbiter Augustine would have solved the problem. So yeah, great commander, honestly. Good choice.
So we had the win on turn, what was that? Turn 3. It was pretty good, came out, but that double Wishclaw actually solved the problem because I had the silence as well. So congrats to Pontus in, just finding a line there.
So we also had the win turn 3. I think the biggest deciding factor is turn order, I'd say. Even if I did have the win turn 3, I did go last in turn order. So Cruz would have won before me, and I probably didn't have interaction to stop him. I think I made 2 major mistakes this game. The first major mistake I made was going 4, I should have mulliganed that hand. I feel that a turn 3 win going last in this type of pod was probably too slow. I probably should have mulliganed a hand where I could do a turn 2 win attempt, maybe get a Dockside into Temur Sabertooth combo. Another mistake I made was passing the turn to sandbag my turn 3 win, thinking that everybody would have interaction to stop Pontus, which they did, and then he won anyway. I probably should have foregoed my turn 3 win for a turn 4 win, just to get Ranger Captain out in case somebody did probably try to attempt a win. If I did, I would get Wirewood into my hand, probably delay my turn 3, bouncing Rocco back to get something else. But somebody else would have probably went off. So there's not much I can probably do in this situation other than mulligan my opening hand, which is probably one of the most important things in Turbo Rocco.
Yeah, drawing the Bola Citadel turn 3 was kind of awkward. We didn't really have the mana anyway, so we were 1 mana off, but we still got there in the end. Dramatic Reversal was a great top deck, and it's really funny to use with Wishclaw. Recommend.